How medieval peasants slept in huts without freezing to death. Picture this. It's a bone-chilling winter night in 14th century England. Snow blankets the countryside, and the wind howls through bare trees. Inside a small, one-room hut with walls barely thicker than your thumb, a peasant family of 6 prepares for sleep. No central heating, no electric blankets, no modern insulation. Yet somehow, they'll survive the night without becoming human popsicles. How did they do it? The answer might surprise you, and it involves far more ingenuity than you'd expect from people history often dismisses as simple. Medieval peasant huts were not the cozy cottages we see in fairy tales. These were survival shelters built from whatever materials were available, usually wattle and daub walls, basically sticks and mud, thatched roofs, and dirt floors. Windows were rare luxuries, and when they existed, they were just holes in the wall, maybe covered with oiled cloth or animal skin. The average hut measured just 12 by 20 feet, smaller than most modern bedrooms, yet housed entire families. Privacy was a foreign concept. Survival was the only priority. But here's where it gets interesting. These seemingly primitive dwellings were actually masterpieces of medieval engineering, designed specifically to keep families alive through brutal winters. The centerpiece of every peasant hut was the central fire pit. This wasn't just for cooking. It was literally the difference between life and death. Medieval peasants kept fires burning almost continuously during winter months, taking turns throughout the night to tend the flames. But they were smart about fuel conservation. During the day, they'd burn wood and create a bed of hot coals. At night, they'd bank these coals with ash, creating a slow-burning heat source that could last for hours. They'd also burn peat, dried animal dung, and even bones, anything that would produce heat and burn slowly. The positioning was crucial. Families slept in a circle around the fire pit, with the most vulnerable of babies, elderly and sick, closest to the warmth. This created natural temperature zones within the hut. Medieval peasants were pioneers of what we now call thermal efficiency. The entire family, sometimes including extended relatives, would sleep together in one large bed made of straw, hay, and whatever fabric they could gather. Think of it as a human heat generator. 6 to 8 people sharing body warmth in close quarters could raise the ambient temperature significantly. Children would sleep between adults, and the family would literally pile on top of each other under layers of wool blankets, animal furs, and whatever coverings they possessed. Even the family animals got in on the action. Pigs, chickens, and sometimes even cows would share the living space during the coldest months. These animals were walking heaters, and their body heat contributed to the overall warmth of the hut. Medieval peasants might not have understood modern thermal dynamics, but they'd figured out insulation through trial and error. They'd stuff straw between wall gaps, hang heavy cloth or animal skins as interior wall coverings, and even use tapestries made from rags to create barriers against cold air. The thatched roof was actually brilliant insulation. When properly laid, thatch could be up to 2 feet thick, creating an insulating layer that trapped warm air inside while keeping cold air out. The steep angle also shed rain and snow effectively. Floor coverings were essential. Families would lay down thick layers of straw, rushes, or dried grass. These weren't just primitive carpets. They were insulation barriers preventing cold from seeping up through the dirt floor. Here's a medieval life hack that's pure genius: warming stones. Peasants would heat large, smooth stones by the fire during the evening. Before bed, they'd wrap these hot stones in cloth and place them at the foot of their sleeping area, or carry them to warm up their bedding. These medieval hot water bottles could stay warm for hours, providing localized heat exactly where it was needed most. Some families had special stones they'd use season after season, becoming expert at selecting rocks that held heat longest without cracking. Medieval peasants developed sophisticated sleeping strategies. The family would go to bed wearing their day clothes. Taking off clothing meant losing precious body heat. They'd add extra layers: wool stockings, caps, and even cloaks worn to bed. Bedtime was a community effort. Family members would spend time before sleep doing vigorous activities, spinning, weaving, or household chores to raise their body temperature before lying down. They'd also eat warming foods, if available: porridge, bread, anything that would fuel their internal heat engines. The sleeping positions were strategic too. Couples would sandwich children between them. Grandparents might share space with grandchildren, creating multi-generational heat-sharing systems. Surviving medieval winters wasn't just about physical warmth. It required mental toughness. Peasant families developed rituals and traditions that helped them endure long, dark, cold nights. Storytelling, singing, and communal activities kept spirits up and minds occupied. They'd also time their sleep cycles with natural light, going to bed shortly after sunset and rising before dawn. This maximized their waking hours during the warmest part of the day and minimized time spent awake during the coldest pre-dawn hours. Medieval peasants understood that food was fuel for body heat. During winter months, they'd consume higher-calorie foods when available: fatty meats, hearty grains, and warming spices. A belly full of hot porridge or stew before bed provided internal warmth that lasted for hours. They'd also drink warm beverages, herbal teas, warm ale, or heated milk when available. These provided both immediate warming and psychological comfort during long winter nights. Medieval peasants didn't just survive winters. They thrived despite conditions that would challenge modern people with all our technology. Their success came from understanding that survival required community cooperation, resource conservation, and ingenious problem solving. These weren't primitive people stumbling through dark ages. They were innovative survivors who developed sophisticated systems for staying warm using nothing but natural materials and human ingenuity. The next time your heating bill arrives, remember the medieval peasant family huddled around their central fire, sharing warmth, stories, and the simple determination to see another dawn. They remind us that sometimes the most elegant solutions are also the most human ones. Their story isn't just history. It's a masterclass in resilience that still has lessons for our modern world.